I've mentioned before that Hunter x Hunter is my favorite anime of all time. We talked about that scene that changed the way I look at Gon and how it ties into Killua's development as a character. Today, I want to talk about one of my favorite characters in all of anime itself, Meruem. He's not my favorite because of his ideologies, he's a favorite of mine because of his arc. Meruem was only alive for 40 days, and throughout those 40 days, he goes through more character development than Goku has gone throughout the entirety of Dragon Ball. And that's coming from a Dragon Ball fan. Meruem goes from the Chimera Ant King, destined to evolve past humanity, to being more human than a lot of the human characters. Let's start the video from the beginning and talk about Meruem and his journey to becoming human. From the moment we see him, we know Meruem is different from the other Chimera Ants. While the Royal Guard and other ants would do anything before disobeying the Queen, Meruem decides to directly disobey her and kill her in the process. He gains sentience in the womb a while before he's supposed to be birthed, but he starts getting bored. The Queen tries to explain to him that he needs more time, and giving birth to him at this moment might kill both of them. Meruem gets angry because at this point he already sees himself as the king, and he's also a stubborn baby, and claws his way out of her stomach. He then leaves her there, bleeding and writhing in pain. Meruem was born to be the perfect being, so when he first is born, he believes he's the king of everything. He kills the first person who he feels is talking down to him, and orders the other ants to do whatever he says. By all means, he's a tyrant at this point. But for this video, I want you to think of Meruem as a child. At this moment in Meruem's life, he's a toddler with the powers of a nuclear warhead. He wants everything, and is willing to kill whoever he has to in order to get his way. When a 2-year-old doesn't get their way, they'll cry and scream and maybe even use violence. When Meruem doesn't get his way, he might scream, but he'll also just decapitate you. He hasn't learned empathy, and because he's the king and nobody's willing to say no to him, he can be as psychotic as he'd like to. Meruem sustains himself by eating human brains. The first brain he eats is one of a child. Again, he doesn't have empathy or see consequences to his actions because he has no one to teach him that. He didn't even like the taste of the child because he prefers Nen users. But he doesn't know what Nen is, so he just assumes some humans are tastier than others. What he takes from this moment is the person he ate didn't fight back. When he was in the womb, he was fed information as well as, people. He was born believing that humans were war-hungry and power-hungry, violent creatures. Famously, when killing a room of people, Meruem yells this at someone.
Have you ever spared a pig or a cow because it begged you for its life?
This one line shows that he has a basic understanding of how humans can sometimes contradict themselves. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be eating meat, but it's weird how we don't view the way we slaughter these animals as barbaric. Anyway, this is how Meruem justifies his killing. He sees humans as livestock, and killing them to eat is just him enacting the will of the food chain. He continues to slaughter and eat people, but he eventually gets bored of it. He knows he can kill everyone, but the fact nobody's fighting back just makes him bored. Meruem and his guards break into the palace of East Korto, and the palace becomes Meruem's home base. He decides to read every book in the palace, and once he's finished, he decided to take a crack at strategy board games. He goes on to play every strategy board game, and challenge and beat every world champion at those games. He masters all of them, until he's introduced to a game called Gungi. This game is made up by Togashi, by the way. I've already tried to find it online before. Anyway, Meruem challenges the world champion Gungi player, but he's surprised to learn the world champion is a little blind girl named Komugi. Komugi was born blind, and for all her life she struggled to find her purpose. Her family is poor, and she feels indebted to them. When she found out she's actually pretty damn good at Gungi, she honed her skills and started playing for money. She's made so much money off of Gungi, she's able to help support her family. But because she's blind and only really good at Gungi, she sees her life's value in terms of how good she is at Gungi. She unknowingly made a Nen contract that if she ever lost a game, she would die. She believes being good at this game is her only life's purpose. One of my favorite little interactions between them is in the first round of Gungi. Komugi explains to Meruem that she's blind and it would really help if they could both say out loud where on the board they're moving their pieces. She says that she gets that since he's the king, he gets to make the rules, so if he says no, she won't ask again. To my surprise, Meruem says yes. I think Meruem just wanted to be able to play her at her absolute best, but part of me does think that he kind of took pity on her. He could have said no, but he decided to accommodate her disability. I just think that was very sweet of him, especially considering all the killing he did moments prior. Meruem and Komugi play Gungi for 8 hours straight, and Komugi wins every single time. They take 2 breaks throughout all of this, and both times Komugi's disappointed they have to stop playing. At one point, Meruem thinks he has Komugi in a bind by using a special move he believes he created. Komugi pauses for the first time when she sees Meruem play this move. Not because she's going to lose, but because she actually created that move. Meruem memorized every possible move in Gungi, that he started creating a move that Komugi already made. There's an old saying that if a monkey was given a keyboard and infinite time, that the monkey would be able to produce the entirety of Shakespeare's work. Meruem, given only 8 hours, memorized every possible move in a board game. He thought so hard about it that he started coming to the same strategy conclusions as Komugi. I just thought that was the coolest thing ever when I first saw that. Anyway, Komugi tells him a story about how she made the strategy he just used, but another kid started using her strategy against her. She talks about how devastated she was because this was her move. Now she'd have to find a way around her own move. She compares it to having a child and then having to kill that child herself. She even starts crying when telling Meruem that story. And the whole time, Meruem is listening. This is the first time Meruem has ever let a human talk to him for this long. This is when he decides to take another break. He thinks to himself, hey, maybe humans are capable of thinking about others and not themselves. He isn't angered by this, and is more confused by it. He assures himself that everyone has a breaking point and is willing to sacrifice the world around them for what they want. He comes back to the Gungi board where Komugi is, napping, and wakes her up. He tells her that if she wins, he will give her anything she wants, but if she loses, he's gonna tear off her left arm. Komugi responds, asking Meruem, instead of taking her left arm, can he just kill her instead? Meruem is so perplexed by this, and Komugi explains to him how she views Gungi and her life story. Basically all I just said a few minutes ago. This throws Meruem off because he figured her human greed and fear would throw her off. He's actually impressed by her dedication and willpower. She shows him in this scene that humans can have passions that don't cost the suffering of others and aren't driven by greed. Meruem, curious by Komugi even more so, asks her what she'd even want if she won. She replies she just wants to play him again. She genuinely enjoys playing Gungi with him. Even though she's winning every game, Meruem is lasting longer than anyone ever has against her. He's losing, but giving her enough of a challenge that it's entertaining her. They're both so intensely competitive, and it's another reason I love their relationship so much. Meruem was so sure she would ask for riches, or to be let go, that her answer perplexed him. He tells her that she could even have asked for his life, and she seems genuinely upset by this. She explains to him that all she wants to do is play Gungi with him, because she loves playing with him. And if he died, then she'd have no one else good enough to play with. He then comes to realize what he's doing is kinda like cheating. He was trying to throw her off her game so he'd win at Gungi. That means subconsciously, he knew he wouldn't be able to beat Komugi in a fair match. Due to his pride, accompanied by the fact that Gungi means so much to Komugi, he apologizes for trying to cheat. As an apology, he tears his own left arm off. She's horrified by this and assures him that he doesn't need to feel sorry. He tells his guards not to heal him because this is his punishment. And this is when Komugi actually gets serious. She demands that Meruem lets his guards heal him, or else she wouldn't continue playing with him. Komugi might just be as prideful about Gungi as Meruem is. She wants to play him at his absolute best because beating him any other way wouldn't satisfy her. He threatens to kill her if she doesn't continue playing, and she still just sits there because she won't move until he's healed. Confused, he gives in and lets his arm be treated. After this, they play for 3 days straight. Meruem is fine with this because he's a chimera ant and doesn't really need breaks. Komugi, on the other hand, starts feeling physically and mentally drained, so Meruem lets her take a break. As she leaves, Meruem asks her for her name. She tells him, and then respectfully asks for his name. He doesn't have an answer for her because he doesn't know his own name. He asks the royal guards, and they aren't any help either. He walks to Komugi's room and sees a hawk attacking her. He instantly strikes down the hawk immediately and checks to see if Komugi's okay. He yells at her. He says, "Why didn't you call for help as soon as the hawk entered the room?" And she responds that she didn't want to inconvenience him. He's the king and she's nobody. Why would he help her? Without a second thought, Meruem replies, she wouldn't be inconveniencing him because she's important to him. When he says that, he can't believe what he's hearing out of his own mouth. He heads out of Komugi's room and tells Pito to watch over Komugi and protect her at all costs. He paces around the castle, contemplating his life. How could he, the Chimera Ant King, suddenly be infatuated with a human? Did he really mean what he said to her? Does he want to keep her around because he wants to beat her in Gungi? Because he genuinely enjoys playing with her? He even contemplates his own philosophy. Komugi is actively teaching him that physical power isn't the only type of strength. He starts to believe that it's the duty of the people with strong physical power like him to protect those without, like Komugi. During Meruem's long-ass self-hosted therapy session, Zeno Zoldyck, Killua's grandpa, storms the palace with Isaac Netero, the head of the Hunter Association. Zeno uses a special move called Dragon Dive, which is basically a Nen meteor shower that falls on a place of his choosing. Of course, the Royal Guard is fully equipped to handle something like this, but a human child with no defensive capabilities isn't. Most of the palace is blown up, and Meruem rushes to Komugi's room to make sure she's okay. What he finds is a badly wounded Komugi laying in the middle of the floor. Zeno Zoldyck and Isaac Netero are there too. Zeno didn't know there was an innocent human in the palace. He was told that the only people there were Meruem and his guards. Out of respect, the two old warriors let Meruem hold Komugi, and don't attack until Meruem is ready. He orders Pito to heal Komugi, and Pito immediately gets to work. Now that Komugi is being operated on, Meruem tells Netero and Zeno that he appreciates them letting him tend to Komugi, and that they've earned themselves a good fight. If you want to see the video I made about what happens to Pito during this moment, click the eye in the top corner. I'm really proud of that video, and I think you'll like it. Meruem asks if they can move somewhere else, so they don't disrupt Komugi's surgery. The two men oblige, but Zeno is sort of traumatized because out of his decades of assassin work, he's never hurt an innocent. Not only hurt, but Komugi's on the verge of death, and the only thing keeping her alive is the superior Nen abilities of a Chimera Ant. He decides to go home and rethink his life, but uses his Nen Dragon to carry Meruem and Netero far away for their fight. Their fight is honestly my favorite in the series. It's action-packed, but is also super telling about both Meruem and Netero. Meruem tries to explain to Netero that they both want essentially the same thing, for humanity to be the best it possibly can. Netero tells Meruem that his end goal is pure, but what he's willing to do to achieve the goal is evil. During this battle, both of them end up really respecting each other. Netero isn't just fighting to stop the villain. He's fighting to prove that even in his old age, he can still fight as good as he ever has with hard work. Meruem just likes finally having a challenge to his power. Towards the latter half of their fight, Netero reveals to Meruem that he found the Chimera Ant Queen moments before she died, and she told him Meruem's name. Now Meruem is even more intrigued by him, and Netero tells Meruem that he'll say his name if Meruem can beat him. They fight for a while longer, and Netero ends up losing an arm and a leg. Netero uses his last resort and uses his Nen as a nuclear bomb. Before he explodes, he says, never underestimate the bottomless malice within the human heart. Meruem. In this moment, Meruem feels what true fear is. He even admits it. He says, now I see it. Checkmate was yours from the beginning. This explosion nearly kills Meruem. Luckily for him, Yuppie and Pooh find him before he's fully dead. They heal him by letting him drink some of their life force. Ugh. He becomes fully healed, but because the explosion was basically a nuclear bomb, Meruem is poisoned. The king of the Chimera Ants, the apex predator of Hunter x Hunter, is losing to cancer. He remembers his fight with Netero and who the royal guards are, but everything else is a bit hazy. Poof, who is just the worst, decides Meruem is better off not remembering Komugi. gives him weakness. I fucking hate Poof. I kinda wish Gon stomped him too. Anyway, Meruem feasts on many people in the palace courtyard and comes across a Chimera Ant soldier, Welfin. Meruem is ready to end him when, in an act of survival, he yells the name Komugi. Suddenly, Meruem remembers everything and is enraged that Poof really just tried pulling a fast one on him. Poof is literally my least favorite character in anime. Fuck that guy. He lets Welfin go, and while Meruem is leaving, Welfin yells, "My only king is Gyro." Quick history here. Gyro is the leader of a private militia called the NGL, and Welfin was once a human who worked for Gyro but was eaten by the Chimera Ant Queen and reborn as a Chimera Ant. Surprisingly, Meruem tells Welfin, "I hope you can find him and live a normal human life again." I think this moment kinda surprised me and Welfin. At this point, Gon is with Pito and Killua in the forest. Komugi is hiding because when she was fully healed, Palm and Killua told her that Poof was trying to kill her, so she should hide. Meruem goes looking for her. Instead, he finds Palm. He asks her to bring him to Komugi, but she refuses. She believes that Meruem wants to kill Komugi, but Meruem explains to Palm that he's dying, and that he wants to see Komugi one last time. Palm is thrown off by this because of her very limited information on Meruem. She didn't expect him to be capable of loving anyone. Palm tells Meruem where Komugi is, sensing that his intentions with Komugi really are pure. Meruem goes to find her. He wakes her up and tells her he's ready for another game of Gungi. She lights up because playing Gungi with Meruem is now her favorite thing to do. Before they start, Meruem finally tells Komugi his name. This makes Komugi smile, and she tells him again her name is Komugi. He responds that he already knows who she is, but now he finally understands what's important about that. He then tells her again that if she wins, she can have anything. And again, she replies that all she wants is to play another round with him. Meruem agrees to this and asks her if she can call him by his name, instead of leader like she has been. They continue playing until Komugi starts crying hysterically. Meruem worries for her and asks what's wrong. Komugi replies that she feels she isn't worthy of this much happiness. She feels that she's nothing, a total waste of space, and Meruem wants to play Gungi with her over and over again. Meruem decides that it's time to tell her the truth, that he's dying, and if she stays near him, the radiation poisoning might kill her too. He tells her that she should leave so she can live. She doesn't even respond to this and just moves her piece, implying that she doesn't care and just wants to play Gungi. Oh my god. Meruem comes to the realization he wasn't born to be king. He wasn't born to save or destroy or fix humanity. He was born for this moment. He was born to meet Komugi and make each other's lives feel complete through their pure human connection. They continue playing and the poison intensifies to the point of Meruem no longer being able to see. He asks Komugi if she's still there, and she assures him that she'll never leave his side. He says that they've played so many times, but every time he was never able to beat her. He tells her that he feels tired and that he just wants to take a little nap. He asks Komugi to hold his hand while he sleeps, and she does. He asks her one final request, say his name one last time. This is when she responds with, "Good night, Meruem. I'll be joining you soon." She lays on top of him, clutching his hand, and they both die, peacefully holding each other. Meruem's story isn't one of a tyrannical ruler with a misshapen view of the world and how it should be run. His story is one of a person born in a body of a beast, learning what it truly means to be human. I love it all so much, if you couldn't tell. And I hope this video encouraged you to watch or rewatch Hunter x Hunter so you could enjoy it as much as I do. I've been so excited for this video. Thank you for watching. I love you all. Please subscribe if you want more videos like this one. Love and laughter always. Stay gold.